يا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي يا سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، قال مولانا أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب عليه السلام: ما بكى السماوات والأرض إلا على يحيى ابن زكريا والحسين بن علي. صدق الإمام وآمنا به. نوروا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. You will find that throughout the passage of time and from the beginning of human history, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on many occasions has altered and changed the entire system of creation in order to establish a given truth. This entire dunya is created on a system, and the perfection of the system indicates the existence of a master architect known as God. And this is where, or this is the bulk and the core of our kalam when it comes to debating an atheist, in that, yes, they believe the existence and the creation of this earth represents a perfect system. However, theirs is to say that law, in that the existence and the creation of this system happened through coincidence, randomly happened through an explosion or through a random Big Bang theory. Where we come to them and we say that no, the perfection of a system or a series of perfections cannot happen coincidentally by chance. In fact, the mathematical probability of this entire universe, which is an expression of perfection in all its chances, cannot have come into existence coincidentally, mathematically speaking. The probability is almost negligible, if not negligible. Indeed, it is negligible, to be correct, when you add up all the probabilities of this world happening or coming into a perfect existence randomly. طيب, for you find that the world is created in a perfect system. Everything within the cone has been set in a particular measure, in a particular proportion, in a particular system, and this system is underlined through perfection. And you find for this reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran a number of times, ponder over the creation, ponder over everything that is around you, because indeed it will lead you towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Perfection in the form of the way the earth brings forward its crop. You will find that there is consistency within the system. The seeds that, or the grains that are used for the wheat plant, for example, will never be able to bring out an orange. Neither will the seeds that are used for an orange ever bring out an apple. You find not only is there perfection within that creation as creation, but there is consistency as well. The system of the rotation of the earth around the sun, how the earth revolves around the sun, and in addition to that, how it rotates around its axis, you find that this entire system is a system of consistency, number one, and number two, a system of perfection. However, you will find that many times Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will alter this system. This consistency, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will break this consistency in order to show or to attract the attention of man towards something much greater. And you will find that this understanding is the core when it comes to the mu'jiza. you will find that there are two separate issues. There's the issue of mu'jiza and karamat. Both of them are translated as miracles. However, there is a difference. A miracle or a mu'jiza is that miracle which by definition is a change in the course of nature brought about by a prophet or by an imam in order to guide people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, this is mu'jiza. And then you have karamat. Karamat is that type of miracle performed by a nabi or an imam which also alters the change or alters the system of creation, but the purpose is not for tabligh. It is for some other purpose. So therefore you find shafa'ah as a concept. Those people who are miraculously cured over here, or miraculously cured through the barakat of Imam al-Hussein, technically speaking, it is not considered to be a mu'jiza, but is considered to be a karamat. And you will find millions of these people who go to Karbala al-Muqaddas, people by the barakat of Majlis Imam al-Hussein, millions upon millions, year after year, are finding and gaining shafa'ah in one way or the other. This is known as karamat. Mu'jiza, particularly for the field of tabligh, like for example, you will find that during the early Meccan period, the people would come to Rasulullah and they would say to him, how can we attest and how can we know that what you are claiming, this risala that you have come with, actually comes from a Lord that we cannot see? You find that for the Meccan people, there were those who found it difficult to believe. This man who is claiming to be a prophet lived amongst us for 40 years. He was one of us, grew up in a household that we knew of. His actions, his people, yes, even though his akhlaq is a little bit different from the norms, because Rasulullah, Sayyidul Akhlaq, even before the coming of Risala. But their point was that you have a person who's a regular Meccan, born in a regular Meccan household. All of a sudden he comes with a message and claims the existence of a God which you cannot see, which you cannot hear, and who is encompassing everything. You want us to believe in a God that we cannot see, a God that we cannot hear, and you, having lived amongst us, now proclaim all of a sudden to be an awaited prophet? What's your proof? Can you do something that the rest of the people cannot do? And hence you find the philosophy behind the mu'jiza, which establishes the superiority of the prophet, where he is able to change the system within this perfect system of nature in order to prove his credibility and superiority. He comes forward with an action that no other person can come forward with, and hence you find that many of the miracles that were performed by Rasulullah during the early Meccan stages was for this reason. One of them, for example, was for the Nabi to split the moon into two. You find that the moon is a central part of the universe, which the rotation of the earth and the cycles of the moon shows a system of perfection. Yet Rasulullah comes and shows them that me as a Nabi, I have been given power by Allah to alter the state of creation when I want and how I want, in order to prove my superiority and my authenticity as a claim. Hence you find Rasulullah split the moon just by pointing at it. Mu'jiza. At another time, he asked for the Meccan people, said to him, if you are truthful in your claim, this is a tree in front of us. Ask the tree or make the tree to move towards us, for it to be uprooted from where it is and physically move towards us. Rasulullah did so. This is a power vested in him by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Meccans were still not happy. They said, ask the tree to move back. Rasulullah did that. It moved back. They said, Ya Rasulullah, make half the tree stay there and half come back. And at this point, Rasulullah says to them that you people, your hearts are sealed to such an extent with all the miracles that I would be able to perform, you would still not believe. And hence the tuhma of Rasulullah being a magician. Anyway, our point being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given the Anbiya the power of altering and changing the system of creation in order to lead the people towards an affair which is great. This is in regards to mu'jizat. And then you have ayat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You have the signs of Allah where the perfect system of consistency is altered by Allah in order to draw the attention of man towards an amr or towards an issue which is absolutely great and enormous in its magnitude. And you find that this issue came into play during or just immediately after the istishhad of Imam al-Hussein. See, there was a massive change within the realm of creation, which denoted the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And whenever the anger of Allah has fallen on previous ummahs, this anger of Allah has been accompanied by the adab of Allah. You will find for Qawm Lut, you will find for Qawm Saleh, the fact that it rained fire on the earth. A change in the system. Usually it rains water. The water vapor which is collected within the clouds then fall upon the earth as water. However, you find that Allah changes the system and instead of water, fire falls from the sky. You look at the other narrations, for example, in regards to Qawm Saleh, it rained stones from the sky upon the people of Saleh, and this claimed to be or proved to be an adab, and they died from it. It's supposed to rain water. Water is supposed to be mercy. However, you find that Allah alters the system of creation. Number one, in order to manifest His anger. And number two, this anger is accompanied with adab. Adab is that they all perished. For Imam al-Hussein, the anger of Allah was manifested through a change within the system of creation, but his adab did not come forward like in the previous generations for previous prophets, because this adab in terms of intiqam for Imam al-Hussein has been delayed until the dhuhur of Maulana Sahib al-Amri wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. If we understand the philosophy behind the possibility of the change within the system of creation and the perfection within this creation, we then get to understand, and we find that it's very easy to digest and accept all those changes within the realm of existence that occurred upon the istishhad of Imam al-Hussein, which denoted the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will find historians from both Ahl Sunnah and Shia, including At-Tabarani from the Ahl Sunnah in his Mu'jam al-Kabir. He says that as soon as the Imam was martyred and his blessed head was separated from his body on the plains of Karbala, the narrations mention, or the historian states, Tabarani in particular, that an eclipse overcame the entire earth. A sun eclipse, to the extent that another historian or another chain of narrators, again from within Tabarani, Mu'jam al-Kabir, says that for 60 days the sun did not shine on this earth. When they say on this earth, wherever or whichever part of the earth they existed in, you find that a change within the consistency within the system. 60 days of darkness at the minimum, you could say, if you assume not the whole world, and from the part of the world that he's speaking with, the Middle Eastern Peninsula, 60 days of no sunshine. An eclipse that was so dark such that there was no light. They say it was as if there was darkness and nighttime had befallen us for 60 days. As soon as the Shahada of Imam al-Hussein had happened, they say that the stars started colliding with each other in the skies, such that people And this Ibn Sa'ad mentions, people within the army of Kufa began to recognize and realize the greatness of their sins. They felt that the day of judgment has befallen upon them. This change in Kawn, why? To divert attention of the people of the magnitude of the sin and the magnitude of the brutality that was carried out in massacring Imam al-Hussein and his companions. Ibn Jawzi goes on to say, and you find this hadith within the books of the Ahl Shia to be rampant, that for 60 days it rained blood from the skies. Such that historians mention for 60 days, the women of Medina and the women of Kufa say that when we would come out to wash our clothes and hang them, when it rained, it was as if our clothes were stained with blood. Ibn Jawzi narrates in his book that in Baytul Maqdas, where Palestine, where Karbala, Baytul Maqdas, he says on the time of Asr, on the 10th of Muharram, 60 AH, there was not a single stone that was overturned on Baytul Maqdas except that we could see blood from underneath these stones. The sky did not rain blood for 40 days. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, except for Yahya ibn Zakaria, Nabi, when he was killed, and Imam al-Hussein. And you find that there is a comparison between the tragedy of Imam al-Hussein and the tragedy of Nabi Yahya, in that Nabi Yahya was killed by the oppressive ruler of his time, just like Imam al-Hussein. Nabi Yahya was beheaded, just like Imam al-Hussein. And the head of Nabi Yahya was brought and attached to the oppressor of the time, just like the way the head of Imam al-Hussein was brought. And you find that at that time, because the Nabi was killed unjustly in this gruesome manner, slaughtered, the sky rained 40 days out of grief. And similarly for Imam al-Hussein. These changes within the realm of existence was supposed to invoke fear within the people and to make them realize the magnitude of the sin that they have committed. Therefore, when we come across hadith that during the end of times or before the dhuhr, the sun will rise from the west, we cannot discount this hadith to be metaphoric. It could be absolutely literal, in that Allah, who is the creator of this universe and the creator of the perfection within the system of this universe, the same Allah who ensures the consistency within this realm of creation, has the power to alter it when He wants, in order to divert the attention of man towards an issue which is absolutely great. Therefore, we may not fully understand the extent or the implications of these hadith, especially when it comes to the dhuhr of the 12th Imam, but we cannot discount it altogether to mean that it is weak or it is metaphorical. Allah changes within the realm of existence has happened way before. Raining of blood, raining of stones, raining of fire, all of which we were told have not been metaphorical but literal in their example. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Which is why when Sayyida Zainab al-Kubra alayhi salam reached the land of Kufa on the 13th of Shahrul Muharram, today being the 12th day, being the 11th day, tomorrow the 12th day. So 12th day, Afwan, Sayyida Zainab reached Kufa. And she addressed the people. She says to them, أَفَأَجِبْتُمْ إِن تَمْتَرُ السَّمَاءِ دَمًا وَعَذَابُ الْآخِرَةِ أَحْزَى. She says, are you surprised that it is raining blood from the skies because of the great sin that you have committed? And this is an indication of the adhab, which is much more greater, that is going to befall upon you. طيب, if we understand this, we move to the second part of the majlis, and inshallah. The narrations mention that the remaining women from the camp of Imam al-Hussein, including Imam al-Sajjad, were taken as prisoners from Karbala to Kufa, and they left Karbala on the 11th of Muharram after the time of Zawwal. So on a day like this, after the time of Dhuhr, the women from the household of Imam al-Hussein, including the wives of his companions and the children and Imam al-Sajjad, were tied in ropes and were made to sit and mount upon camels that had no saddles, and were taken from Karbala to Kufa. All this after Umar ibn Sa'ad gathered the bodies of all the men within his army who had been killed, gave them a ghusl, gave them kafan, recited Salatul Mayyit over them, and buried them, while the bodies of Rasulullah and his pure companions are left on the sands of Karbala without a ghusl and a kafan. For the narrations mention that on the day of Ashura itself, as soon as Imam al-Hussein was martyred and his blessed head was severed, Umar ibn Sa'ad gave the head of Imam al-Hussein to Khuli al-La'in and to Hamid ibn Muslim to take the head of Imam al-Hussein and rush towards Kufa in order to grant it to Ubaidullah ibn Ziyad as a token to show that Bani Umayyah is victorious. Therefore, majority of the historians say that 71 heads, blessed heads, were raised on spears and were taken to Kufa on the 11th of Muharram with the rest of the prisoners from the household of Ahlul Bayt, except the head of Imam al-Hussein. It was sent on the exact day of Ashura. Umar ibn Sa'ad and the La'ana, the other Mal'unin that were there, could not even wait for the next day. They wanted the head of Imam to be taken to Kufa straight away in order to register their victory and to confirm and to secure their rewards for participating in this crime. So the narrations mention that Umar ibn Sa'ad gave the blessed head of Imam al-Hussein to Khuli, and he was accompanied by Hamid ibn Muslim. Majority of the times it is narrated by the historians that Hamid ibn Muslim was supposed to be a partial journalist who came to record and narrate the events of Karbala, but we find that this is absolutely inaccurate. In fact, he was one of those individuals who was sent to Karbala in order of Bani Umayyah to make sure and to narrate the accounts of the way Imam al-Hussein was martyred, to keep a record on who participated in this martyrdom, and based on his accounts the tribes would be rewarded accordingly. And the biggest proof of the amount of trust that Bani Umayyah had in Hamid ibn Muslim is that he was from amongst those people that were chosen to safeguard the head of Imam al-Hussein and take it back to Kufa. For Hamid ibn Muslim and Khuli leave Karbala on the same day of Asr of Ashura. They left Karbala to go towards Kufa. However, as they reached Kufa, and you know that the distance from Karbala to Kufa is close to 90 kilometers, and the fact that they were riding on horses just after the time of Asr, the historians mention that when they reached the outskirts of Kufa, the city of Kufa was already closed. Because on the olden days, the way the cities used to be built like a fort, they had an outside gate, or you could say an outside wall or a main gate for an entry. Just like how in our countries we have when you enter through immigration, if you are driving, you have this immigration control. For example, they used to have within the cities these outside gates or these parameters that would define the boundary of the city, which is why within the older books of fiqh, if you are trying to find out where is the haddut tarakhus, the final part after which when you come out of a city your salat becomes qasr, you will find that the older books of fiqh tell you that the haddut tarakhus is where the last part of the houses can be seen, or where the final wall which is the perimeter of the city, is surpassed. So Kufa as a city had major gates which were opened and closed at certain times, where then you would be allowed to enter into the actual city center. Hamid ibn Muslim and Khuli, when they left Karbala at the time of Asr, by the time they reached to Kufa, they found that the city of Kufa and the gates of the main city are already closed. So Khuli decided to camp that night in Masjid al-Hannana. That's why you find Masjid al-Hannana is in the outskirts from the side of Masjid al-Kufa, because the main city was the city where there is Masjid al-Kufa. That's around it was Darul Imara and the rest of the residents. So the historians mention that Khuli spent the night in Masjid Hannana, and he placed the blessed head of Imam al-Hussein on that stone, and the drop of blood from the blessed head of the Imam fell on that stone. Which is why, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant to all of us the opportunity to perform the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein and the ziyarah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. But when God gives you a chance to go to Najaf, and for those who have already gone, you will find that it is extremely mustahab to go to Masjid Hannana and perform the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein over there. And within the Masjid Hannana, you find that there is a dhari. Within this dhari, there is no qabr inside. Rather, this is the place where Imam al-Hussein's head was placed overnight, while Khuli was waiting to get into the city of Kufa. This is one. On the same token, between brackets, the importance of Masjid Hannana. Masjid Hannana, in addition to the fact that Imam's blessed head was also placed over there for the period of one night, you find that Masjid al-Hannana is one of those mosques that Amir al-Mu'mineen would spend numerous hours within the middle of the night performing his ibadat. Majority of the Salatul Layl, majority of the mustahab salat that Amir al-Mu'mineen would recite within the nights when the Dhahiri Khilafat was given to him was in Masjid al-Hannana. Masjid al-Hannana is the same place where Amir al-Mu'mineen would go, would dig hole in the ground, he would put his blessed head on the ground and he would complain. He would say that I have all this knowledge in my chest, in my heart, and I have no one to give this knowledge to except the earth. On another occasion, he says, the grief that I have inside my heart is a grief that I cannot convey to anybody, so then I talk to the ground. And in another tradition, he would put his head in a well and he would speak inside it. How madloom was Amir al-Mu'mineen. For the narrations mention that when Imamain al-Hasani wal-Hussein were taking the Taboot of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, they were holding the Taboot from the back, Imam Hassan and Imam al-Hussein, and from the front we have traditions that Jibreel and Mikael were carrying the Taboot of Amir al-Mu'mineen. As soon as they came out of Kufa and were going towards Najaf, where the Haram and Dhari of Amir al-Mu'mineen is, when they passed through Masjid al-Hannana, they say two things. In Jawahir al-Kalam, it mentions that in Masjid al-Hannana, the trees that was there, that was the form of a minaret, the tree inhana al-nahl, yani, or inhalat nahl, the palm tree bent down out of respect, to bow down out of respect for the Taboot of Imam al-Hussein. And another word, inhana, from the word to wail or to weep, that the earth began to weep when Imam al-Hussein passed through this land. And that is why you find that it is absolutely mustahab to perform ziyarah in Masjid al-Hannana. Tayyib. The tradition mentions that Khuli spent a part of the night inside of Masjid Hannana. At this point, he waited until a certain part of the night and then decided to come in through the gates. Even though the gates were closed, what is understood, and this is not found within the historians, is that he may have one way or the other found a path or have spoken to the guards, Allahu Alam, and there's speculation on both sides. But he managed to get into the city of Kufa. As he got into the city of Kufa, he finds that Darul Imara is already closed, and Ibn Ziyad was camping at a place called Nukhayla, was coming back to Kufa the next day. For Khuli had nowhere to go. He returns back to his house. Sayyid Hashim al-Bahrani mentions that when he came back to his house, he had two women. He went into the house of his first wife, and he had the head of Imam al-Hussein covered in a gunia, like in a sack, which he had put inside. His wife asks him, "What have you come with?" He said that I have come with that thing that will give us the wealth of the dunya. She says, "What is that?" She said, "I have brought the head of a Khariji, one of the enemies of God." She says, "And who may that be?" He says, "Hussein ibn Ali." Allahu Akbar. She says, "Hussein ibn Ali, the grandson of the Prophet?" She said, "Yes." She says to him, "You were responsible for killing him?" He says, "Yes." She says, "And you brought his head to our house?" He says, "Yes." She said to him, "Get out of my house. May Allah never put my head and your head on the same pillow ever again." And she sought a divorce, refused for him to stay inside the house. Khuli left in the middle of the night. He goes to the house of his second wife, who was Tha'labiyya, from the tribe of Tha'lab. He comes in the middle of the night. She comes to him. She says, "Where have you been?" She says, "We have returned from war." "War against who?" He says, "Against the Khariji, enemy of Allah." She asks, "What is his name?" At this time, Khuli doesn't give the name because of what happened with his first wife. The narration mentions that he refused to answer and said that, "Do not worry." He left the head within this gunia in the sahan of the house. You could say almost like an open veranda or yard of the house. He left the blessed head of Imam al-Hussein there. He went into the house and went to sleep. His wife narrates that that night, I saw as if a beam of nur is emanating from our yard, our front yard, if you take the translation. I saw a light, a beam of nur and light emanating from our yard into the heavens, from a particular place of our veranda. And I went towards this light. The wife of Khuli is dreaming. She says, "I went towards this nur. I saw, where is it emanating from?" I saw there is like a gunia, like a cloth that is covering something on a tasht, and nur is rising towards the heavens. As I came closer, I see two women descending down from the heavens, weeping and wailing. She says, I became astounded. I asked them, "Who are you?" The first woman says, "I am Khadijat al-Kubra." Allahu Akbar. The second woman, who is wailing uncontrollably, I say, "Who are you?" She says, "Fatimat al-Zahra." Allah. "Women, why have you come here?" He say that this is the head of my son Hussein ibn Ali that was severed from Karbala. Sayyidah Zahra weeps that the body of my son, which is trampled by horses, is in Karbala, and the head is in Kufa. The woman begins to weep. At this time, Sayyidah Zahra says, "Because of your weeping and because of your stance, you are with us in Jannah." Allah. The woman woke up from her dream. She began to weep. She goes into the veranda. She sees that this is the blessed head of Imam al-Hussein. Khuli wakes up. The woman goes to him and she says, "How dare you kill the grandson of the Prophet and take his head towards the governor? I shall never give you the head of Imam al-Hussein." And at this tradition, at this point, the historians mention, the tradition mentions, Khuli took a metal pole and hit his wife at the back of her head, killing her on the spot. She gained shahada in the way of Imam al-Hussein. And this is how the blessed head of Imam al-Hussein was taken from Karbala to Kufa. The women reached Kufa on the 12th of Muharram. Masa'ib after the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein is much. There is the masa'ib of the women in the way that their possessions were looted. Masa'ib of the women in the way that their tents were burnt. But one masa'ib that stands out is the way the enemies dealt with the body of Imam al-Hussein after martyring him. Allah, Allah. The narration mentions that after Shimr al-La'in beheaded Imam al-Hussein, they called for 10 horsemen, and he said to them, can I have 10 of the greatest horsemen from my army to trample upon the body of Hussein ibn Ali? Allah, Allah. The tradition mentions that 10 horsemen came, and each and every one of them were the illegitimate children. They put the body of Imam al-Hussein on the plains of Karbala. Allah, Allah. Sayyida Zainab and Imam al-Sajjad are watching. I don't know how Rabab may have watched. I don't know how Sukaina may have watched. But the tradition mentions they placed the body of Imam al-Hussein, the headless body of Imam, on the plains of Karbala. The narration mentions 10 horsemen began to gallop their horses from the east of Karbala, from the west of Karbala. In the middle is the body of Imam al-Hussein, crushed to pieces, some on the right side and some of the left side. Allah, Allah. The narration mentions that they did not even stop over here, that as they crushed the body, they began to loot from the body of Imam al-Hussein. One person came and stole the amama of Imam. One person came and stole the kaba of the Imam. But there was one la'in by the name of Bajdal. He says that when I reached the body of Imam al-Hussein and I saw everybody was looting, somebody has taken the amama, somebody the shirt, somebody the slippers. He said, I looked towards the body of Imam al-Hussein. I saw on his finger there was a ring. Allah, Allah, ya Shia. He says that I tried to pull out the ring from the finger of the Imam, but the ring would not come out. He says, I still wanted that ring. Bajdal says, I took out my khanjar, I took out my dagger, and I cut off the finger of Imam al-Hussein. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Matam Hussein.
जब रिदा सर से छिंदी मैं सदा देती रही, तू न आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिंदी मैं सदा देती रही, तू न आया गाजी। आले इमरान कहाँ और जिंदान कहाँ, ये बहन कैद हुई, तू न आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिंदी मैं सदा दे, तू न आया गाजी। हमको पानी न मिले, तेरी खुशबू तो रहे, तेरे बाजू न कटे, चाहे मस्की जा छींदे, ये मगर हो न सका, तेरे बाजू है जुदा। हम पे है तश न लबी, तू न आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से छिन मैं सदा दे, तू न आया गाजी। धूप में टूटा सजर, तुझसे आबाद था घर, है बरहना मेरा सर, क्या नहीं तुझको खबर। ऐ अलमदारे वफा, इस बहन को बाखुदा, तुझसे डारस्ती बंधी, तू न आया गाजी। जब रिदा सर से चिंदी मैं सदा देती रही, तू न आया गाजी। क्या कहूँ शेर मेरे बेरिदा हम को लिए, ये मुसलमान सारे शेर दर शेर गए, खिलकते कूफा कभी, खिलकते शाम कभी, बारवा हम पे हंसी तू न आया गाजी, जबरदा सर से चिंदी मैं सदा देती रही, तू न आया गाजी। नारे सलवात।
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alayka ya Rasul Allah. Assalamu alayka ya Ashrafil Anbiya. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib Qasimun Nari wal Jannah. السلام عليك يا سيدة فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالم.